miss an all-new 1% Club Monday on Fox.
Now, your primetime local news leader. Fox 22 News at 10.
A person is dead tonight after a fire in Aroostook County earlier today. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Beth Jones. According to the Department of Public Safety, crews were called to the scene of a structure fire today around 5 o'clock this morning at 258 Carville Road in Mapleton. As firefighters fought the flames, responders located a deceased adult female victim in the residence. That victim has not yet been positively identified. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Augusta will determine the identity of the victim as well as the manner and cause of death. The State Fire Marshal's office is investigating. The house is a total loss, and the Department of Public Safety said no additional information is available at this time. We'll keep you updated if we get any further detail. Well, Vice President J.D. Vance touched down in Bangor this afternoon. J.D. Vance told listeners Maine is one of the worst states in the nation when it comes to fraud, and he accused state lawmakers of ignoring the problem. Our Grace Blanchard was there and has details.
Vice President of the United States of America, J.D. Vance.
Vice President J.D. Vance welcomed by a large crowd in Bangor as he made a stop in the Queen City, with the topic of fraud taking center stage.
What you have in Maine is a festering problem where people have been taken advantage of and they've been stolen from, and your government hasn't done anything about it.
The vice president has been assigned by President Trump to lead an anti-fraud task force, cracking down on states like Minnesota, California, and Maine.
If they're the gold medalist and the silver medalist, I heard somebody shout out New York. Maybe New York is the bronze medalist, but let me be honest, maybe Maine is the bronze medalist.
Vance pointed towards a federal audit released earlier this year that found Maine made at least $45 million in improper Medicaid payments. He also voiced support for former Governor Paul LePage, who said if elected to Congress, he would make addressing fraud a priority.
When the government wastes taxpayer money, it's working families like you who pay the price.
Vance shared that the administration has sent letters to all 50 states, warning that states could lose funding if they don't get serious about fighting fraud.
The reality is the federal government is going to act, even if our Democrat colleagues don't care, want to put their head in the sand on this issue, want to refuse to act. That's their choice, but it doesn't mean that's what's going to happen.
The threat to the Medicaid program is not us keeping fraudsters away from the Medicaid program. It's the fraudsters raiding that program to begin with. That's the threat to the Medicaid program.
The vice president says going after fraud is not a partisan or political issue. The administration is willing to work with any state official, Democratic or Republican, over the next 2 years to address what he described as a pressing issue. In Bangor, Grace Blanchard, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Across the street from that event, a crowd of protesters gathered, voicing their opposition to the vice president and the Trump administration. As our Alex Schley tells us, despite a few tense moments, the demonstration remained peaceful.
Protesters lined Main Avenue, waving signs, chanting, and making their frustration with the current administration clear. Many who attended say they felt compelled to show up and make their voices heard.
I can't just sit home on my couch and do nothing about it.
I am here today because I think it's really important to have a very visible, very audible, loud, active pushback against what the government is currently trying to do in just about every arena.
He's helping Trump, who is in the Epstein files more than Epstein himself.
Several candidates running for governor and Congress also made an appearance, standing in solidarity with the crowd and echoing many of the same concerns.
The people of Maine have had enough with what's going on with this administration. The economy's upside down. We're in an illegal war, and J.D. Vance coming here to sell what? To sell more of the same.
It's so important in this moment of crisis for our democracy, with this administration, which is the most corrupt in our history, that we come and demonstrate, stand in solidarity and have our voices heard against this, because it's wrong.
Rebecca Hartwell attended Thursday's event, calling herself a peacekeeper and working to de-escalate confrontation and ensure the demonstration remained peaceful.
We all have free speech, at least for the moment, ostensibly. So they have every right in the world to come over and ask whatever questions they want, but we also have the right to refuse to give them the rage-baiting content that they are here to get.
Democratic candidate for governor, Shenna Bellows, says the message from Thursday's crowd was unmistakable.
Hate has no home here.
In Bangor, Alex Schley for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Before Vice President Vance took the podium, two Democrats, one a candidate for governor, the other for Congress, gathered with supporters to shine a light on reproductive rights and the accusations of fraud against the state. Our Doug Banks has those details.
In response to Vice President J.D. Vance visiting Bangor on Thursday, Democratic candidates for public office spoke about abortion rights and the fraud accusations levied against the state of Maine. A U.S. court recently granted the state of Louisiana's request to temporarily suspend the abortion medication mifepristone from being sent to patients through the mail. The U.S. Supreme Court responded by reversing that decision.
You know, as governor, we need to take this on and tell them that this is the state of Maine, and we're going to do what we need to do to protect our health care.
The vice president's main talking point on Thursday was fraud. Back in January, a federal audit found that Maine made at least $45 million in improper fee-for-service Medicaid payments for rehabilitative and community support services provided to children diagnosed with autism.
Months ago, I broke with my party and called for an independent commission to audit the Maine Care program. I believe in accountability. I believe Mainers deserve to know where every tax dollar is being spent, and that isn't partisan, that's just good government. And I've been saying it long before J.D. Vance booked a flight to Bangor.
Other speakers included State Representative Amy Rader, Dr. Julia McDonald with the Mabel Wadsworth Center, and Bangor School Board member Mallory Cook. In Bangor, Doug Banks, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee spoke out on Vice President Vance's visit, saying it was a desperate attempt to distract from what they call the war Paul LePage and his allies are waging on Mainers' health care. They said, quote, if Vance wants to talk about scams, he should talk about Republicans' big ugly bill, which is already kicking tens of thousands of Mainers off Medicaid, putting rural hospitals across the district at risk of closure, and gutting Maine's health care system to fund massive tax breaks to billionaires, end quote. Shifting our gaze now, the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency arrested 5 people following the execution of a search warrant in Caribou. On Thursday, May 7th, after a month-long investigation into suspected drug trafficking at a residence on Sweden Street in Caribou, MDEA agents and the Maine State Police Tactical Team executed a search warrant there. They say they seized over 200 grams of fentanyl and a sawed-off 20-gauge shotgun. The 5 arrested all face charges of aggravated trafficking in scheduled drugs. 49-year-old Ariel Rosado, 49-year-old Jose Rosado, 41-year-old Justin Murphy, 33-year-old Andrea Trantham, and 26-year-old Tiana McLaughlin, all of Caribou, were arrested. Ariel Rosado, Trantham, and Murphy also face probation violations, and according to MDEA, more arrests are expected to come in this case. Agents were assisted by the Maine State Police, Caribou Police, Aroostook County Sheriff's Department, and U.S. Border Patrol. Well, a former Mount Desert Island high school student is suing her former principal, who is still at the school. Her suit accuses Principal Matthew Haney of failing to stop harassment in school from another student, as well as willfully allowing a brutal assault later on that left her with a concussion and other injuries. The suit says the conflict involved the female plaintiff and another student who was biologically male but identified as female. The suit alleges that the biologically male student had been harassing the plaintiff in the fall of 2024. She reported the harassment to Principal Haney, but the suit says nothing was done. Then one day, on the way to school, when the male student got on the bus, he allegedly attacked the plaintiff's friend, and when the plaintiff intervened, documents say he then assaulted the plaintiff. The driver separated them, then radioed the school and said increased staff and police presence would be needed upon their arrival. But according to the suit, when the bus arrived, only Principal Haney and the school nurse were present. The male student allegedly attacked the plaintiff again, smashing a steel water bottle into her head, forcing her to the ground, smashing her face into the pavement, and punching her several times. The suit claims Haney did nothing to stop the assault, and when the bus driver tried to intervene, the suit says that Haney allegedly told him, quote, let them fight it out. The plaintiff suffered a concussion, a bite to her face, and PTSD. She's suing for multiple levels of damages. Well, a Waterville man was sentenced in U.S. District Court in Bangor today for attempting to send obscene materials to a minor. Court records show that 39-year-old Neil Wing was in communication with an undercover detective posing as a 12-year-old girl on an online chat platform. Their conversations became sexual in nature, with Wing sending explicit materials to what he thought was a child. He was sentenced today to 21 months in prison, to be followed by 3 years of supervised release. In other news, folks in Newport had a bit of a surprise this morning. Unfortunately, a water main break occurred on Center Street. Some local businesses, closed schools, and residents were impacted by that water main break. Never a good thing there. Crews were out working hard all morning to get it repaired. Officials say everything did go back to normal. In April of last year, local baby Eliana Rose Campbell passed away at 10 months old from junctional epidermolysis bullosa, a rare genetic skin disease with no known cure. Now, it's commonly referred to as butterfly disease due to blisters that form from the slightest touch. It's also called the worst disease you've never heard of, as it only affects roughly 500,000 people worldwide. But her story of resilience sparked a community to join arms in raising awareness to hopefully find a cure. It also started a memorial walk that will be held later this month. The second annual Eliana's Hope for Healing Memorial Walk will start at 10 a.m. on the Bangor waterfront on Saturday, May 30th. The walk will go across the Joshua Chamberlain Bridge onto the Brewer River Walk, leading to the pink butterfly bench dedicated to Eliana Rose. According to the Campbell family, funds from this year's walk will go toward finding a cure for junctional epidermolysis bullosa.
We hope that people remember Ellie. I know that her story made a really big impact on the world, and I just don't want people to forget.
And to just get more people to know about the disease and learn Ellie's story.
Not every case of EB is terminal, but every case is a lot of pain. And the more money we can raise towards research, the more we can get closer to a life without pain.
The Memorial Walk is being organized by a group called Eliana's Army. Last year's walk garnered around $30,000 for EB research, and to sign up, you can visit this story on our website. That's foxbangor.com. Such a beautiful little girl. Of course, we will not forget Eliana Rose. Alrighty, folks, well, let's pause now and get a first check of our forecast.
Thank you, Beth. Your first weather tonight is brought to you by Tick and Mosquito Guard. We stop ticks and mosquitoes, now serving Washington, Hancock, and Penobscot counties. We are pet safe and have eco-friendly options available. Call today for a free quote at 207-263-3421. All right, those highs for today. We did reach into the mid-60s out there in Bangor, and that is the same for Millinocket, Holton, Presque Isle for today. A bit cooler off to the west. That cold front's been hanging out over there and bringing nonstop showers, especially to the Portland area. They still reach the low 60s for today, but check out Freiburg at 55 degrees for your afternoon high today. So the showers are still hanging out in Portland for tonight, and it's going to kind of swing its way onto our coastline, making its way inland. Still, this front just wants to stick right around the southwestern portion of the state. Now we're looking at chances for showers, still very light here in Bangor, right around 6 a.m., but tomorrow afternoon we will see some light scattered showers still here in the Bangor area, and starting to make its way out by tomorrow evening here at 7:30 to 8 o'clock. So for tonight, some clouds out there. Still can see a few light showers. We'll have better chances tomorrow morning into the afternoon as well. Beth?
Chase, thank you so much. And still to come on Fox 22 News at 10, your national headlines.
Got old metal and junk cars? Turn that clutter into cash at Daddy and Daughters. We make recycling easy, fast, and fair. From Skowhegan to Dover Foxcroft, from Troy to Lee, you can trust our certified scales and friendly service, offering top prices for junk vehicles in Maine. Whether you drop off or we pick up, Daddy and Daughters covers central and eastern Maine. Come see us at one of our 4 locations and watch your scrap pay off. Daddy and Daughters, turn scrap into cash.
Think you know Robert Charles? Think again. While President Trump was crushing the woke left, DC insider Bob Charles was cashing in, making millions holding lucrative contracts with the woke DEI Never Trump Obama administration. Bob Charles, looking the other way, abandoning the MAGA movement, working for liberal DEI-loving Democrats, failing President Trump. Anything for a buck chuck can't be trusted. Trump traitor Robert Charles, woke, radical, wrong. Just too liberal for Maine.
Sprague's Nursery and Garden Center is your destination for all things green, and yellow, and pink, and red, and, well, you'll understand when you visit us. Plants aren't just another department here. They're our whole world. From gardening classes to our expansive greenhouses, we cultivate a community of budding and seasoned gardeners alike. Professional landscapers turn to us too. Shouldn't you? Sprague's Nursery and Garden Center, growing with you since 1947.
Webb's RV Center has a 4-acre lot with over 75 previously owned campers all on sale, plus another 4 acres of new RVs and motorhomes. Webb's RV will take anything in trade. You can buy a camper anywhere, but be sure to buy your next camper at your local neighbor. A website can't service your RV, but Webb's RV will. And they have the biggest service department in the state of Maine to help you enjoy your RV or motorhome.
So come on down, neighbor. The coffee pot's on and the pencil is sharp.
The U.S. and Chinese delegations getting down to business today as the two superpowers talk trade, Iran, and where both countries stand on Taiwan. Fox's Mike Emanuel has the story.
A busy Thursday in Beijing. President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping touring the historic Temple of Heaven before an official state banquet. Earlier in a sit-down that lasted 2.5 hours, President Trump says Xi pledged not to provide Iran with weapons and even offered to help broker an end to the fighting and reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
President Xi would like to see a deal made. You know, they buy a lot of their oil there, and they'd like to keep doing that.
But as the president understands all too well in the art of the deal, the Chinese want something in return, reportedly pressing the administration on a $14 billion arms package to Taiwan that passed Congress, but the president has yet to sign off on.
If I'm the United States, I would say we're not going to change a thing and just press on.
According to a spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Xi described Taiwan as, quote, the most important issue in China-U.S. relations.
People Republic of China has been trying to get Taiwan for 76 years now.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. wants to keep its policy of not officially recognizing Taiwan as its own country or as a part of China, and that the administration strongly opposes any kind of military takeover.
We think it would be a terrible mistake to force that through force or anything of that nature. There would be repercussions for that globally, not just from the United States.
The summit continues Friday with tea and a diplomatic lunch before the president heads back home. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
Iran has reportedly seized another commercial vessel off the east coast of the United Arab Emirates outside the Strait of Hormuz. It is the latest escalation in tensions over the crucial waterway and Iranian ports. Fox's Lucas Tomlinson has more from Dubai.
The hijacked ship was last seen heading for Iranian waters. The British military says the incident took place at 9:45 this morning, 38 nautical miles from Fujairah, off the coast of the UAE in the Gulf of Oman. Iran's foreign minister claims the country still controls the Strait of Hormuz.
As far as we are concerned here, the Strait of Hormuz is open for all, commercial vessels. But they need to cooperate with our Navy forces.
Abbas Araghchi attended the BRICS Economic Summit in New Delhi today. On the same day, an Indian-flagged ship was attacked and sunk off the coast of Oman. India condemned the attack, but did not assess which country was behind it. With the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports now more than a month old, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says Iran feels the effects on Karg Island, the export hub of 90% of its oil before the war.
There have been no loadings in the past 3 days. We believe their storage is full. None of the ships are getting out. None are coming in.
A former advisor to President Trump wants U.S. forces to get more involved to bring Iran to its knees.
I think you take something of value to their administration. You put them at risk. You take something like Karg Island. I know it's going to be risky to do so, but you've got to do it.
Israel has assisted the Emirates with air defense systems. The Prime Minister's office says Benjamin Netanyahu secretly visited the United Arab Emirates to meet UAE's President Mohammed bin Zayed.
3 hours after that statement from the Prime Minister's office was released, the UAE's foreign ministry issued its own statement, denying a meeting took place. In Dubai, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
The head of U.S. Central Command says American and Israeli forces have taken out the vast majority of Iranian weapons-making capabilities and naval forces. Admiral Brad Cooper testified on Capitol Hill about Iran's remaining military strength and whether the U.S. weapons inventory is dangerously depleted. Fox's chief national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin reports.
At his first public hearing since the Iran conflict began 7 weeks ago, CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper pushed back on leaked assessments about Iran's remaining missile stockpiles.
Iran continues to have as much as 70 to 75% of its missiles and launchers.
The numbers that I've seen in open source are not accurate. It's more than just the numbers. It's the command and control that's been shattered. It's a significant degradation in capability. And it's the lack of any ability to then produce any missiles or drones on the back end.
Democrats also want to know about depleted U.S. munition stockpiles. Reports the U.S. has fired 45% of its Patriot missiles since February.
Can you talk to me about how this constrains our air and missile defense?
Senator, I have all the munitions necessary to both defend our forces as well as conduct a broad range of contingencies.
Republicans asked about whether Iran is less of a threat.
They are significantly less of a threat.
Is it fair to say that the Iranian regime is still a revolutionary terrorist regime even after all the deaths of their senior leaders?
They are.
There were also questions about civilian casualties.
How did we then bomb 22 schools?
There's no indication that we have that has been corroborated.
How many schools have we bombed?
There is one active civilian casualty investigation from the 13,629 munitions.
So how do you explain the publicly available information that 22 schools have been hit and multiple hospitals?
There's no way that we can corroborate that. No indication of that whatsoever, Senator.
Admiral Cooper says the U.S. has destroyed 85% of Iran's weapons manufacturing facilities, 90% of Iran's inventory of 8,000 naval mines, and it will be 10 years, he says, before Iran can rebuild its navy. But, he admitted, the IRGC still has a very moderate capability to disrupt the Strait of Hormuz. In Washington, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
Coming up on the 10 p.m. news on Fox 22, Georgia and South Carolina are escalating the redistricting battle, with Republicans pushing new maps that could reshape key Democratic seats before the midterms. And Alex Murdaugh's murder conviction was overturned, and South Carolina prosecutors now weighing their next legal moves. Those stories and more as the 10 p.m. news on Fox 22 continues.
What does Graham Plattner think of rural Mainers? He calls them stupid and racist. And Plattner called some Maine lobstermen drug-addicted pieces of shit. That's the real Graham Plattner. Pine Tree Results Pack is responsible for the content of this advertising.
You build more than projects. You build what communities rely on. When the job site runs on results, put Kubota to work. Backed by expert service and support from your local Kubota dealer. Right now, bring home select Kubota KX Series with 0% financing available or save up to $7,000.
Available at Doors Equipment, 1468 Outer Hammond Street, Bangor.
Serving is more than a tradition. It's a call, and you've answered it. It's your legacy, and it deserves to be recognized. That's why we're proud to extend exclusive offers to military personnel active or retired. You move this country forward, and we're riding with you. Get this low-mileage lease on this 2026 Chevy Trax LT for around $279 per month. And now, eligible military personnel can get $1,000 bonus cash.
When the morning light hits Maine, start your day with Good Morning Maine. Craig Colson, Janessa Bishop, by your side, bringing the stories that matter statewide. Local news and the forecast ahead. Wake up informed, ready to go on ABC 7 and Fox 22.
Graham Plattner blames Maine's women for getting raped because he says they get up drunk. And Plattner bragged about having a Nazi tattoo on his chest. That's the real Graham Plattner. Pine Tree Results PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
You're watching Fox 22, Bangor.
A redistricting race ahead of November's pivotal midterm elections. Republicans expanding their efforts to Georgia and South Carolina as Democrats suffer a blow with their new map in Virginia being tossed last week by the state Supreme Court. Fox's chief congressional correspondent Chad Pergram reports.
The race to redistrict is heating up in the South ahead of the midterms. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster is calling a special session amid pressure from the White House.
The people of South Carolina are very supportive of President Donald Trump. They understand perfectly that we're in a conflict, a nationwide conflict.
It likely means that longtime Democratic lawmaker and former House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn could lose the seat he's held since 1992. In Georgia, lawmakers meet next month to change their congressional map, but those changes don't kick in until 2028. Republicans say new districts are necessary because the Supreme Court banned race-based gerrymandering, and this has nothing to do with cajoling from Washington.
I think the governor is trying to obey the law. I think you're going to have districts that more reflect the people.
Altered maps could deliver 14 new seats to Republicans this fall, compared to 6 for the Democrats. But Democrats remain optimistic despite the evolving landscape.
There are 45 districts in play that we've identified as opportunities to flip in this upcoming midterm election.
Some accuse Republicans of more sinister motives.
Frankly, racist redistricting efforts targeted towards disenfranchising black voters across the country.
Like any political gamble, there's risk. In some districts, one party once held a double-digit lead, but those advantages are now diluted. That makes new districts easier to flip. On Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
South Carolina's Attorney General says he's considering all legal courses of action after Alex Murdaugh's murder convictions were overturned. Even though Murdaugh is not being released from prison because he's serving a 40-year sentence for other crimes, the retrial is shaping up to be another battle in the justice system. All this as Murdaugh's only remaining child is seen for the first time. Fox's Brian Yennis reports.
South Carolina's Attorney General and Alex Murdaugh's lawyers are gearing up for a retrial. After a unanimous 5-0 decision, the South Carolina Supreme Court threw out Murdaugh's double murder convictions.
We believe that we have credible evidence that supports our conclusions.
He is very relieved that he has gotten the label of convicted murderer of his wife and son off of him, and we plan to keep it off of him.
At issue, former court clerk Becky Hill. The court found Hill improperly influenced jurors to boost sales of the book she was writing on the case.
Her conduct was a harmless error as it related to the ultimate conclusions of the jury at large.
Prosecutors also got a warning from the justices to limit how much evidence of Murdaugh's financial crimes a new jury hears.
They don't have any forensics tying him to the murder scene.
One hole in the defense's case remains the absence of an alternative suspect.
We received tips about where the murder weapons are. We received tips about who was in the area that night and what motives they have.
Back in South Carolina, Alex's only surviving son, Buster, was spotted at his home Thursday.
Imagine what this is doing to the other son. He's going to have to be dragged through this whole thing again.
Attorney General Wilson says he plans to retry Murdaugh before the end of the year, but since he's now running for governor, the defense argues that timeline could slip. In New York, Brian Yennis, Fox News.
A foreign automaker sees some losses. Fox Business Network's David Asman has a look at that story and more in today's Fox Means Business.
Markets finished higher for your Thursday. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ continue to rocket higher, setting new records. The Dow also closing higher and reclaiming the 50,000 level. Canada Goose beat Wall Street estimates for its fiscal fourth quarter as strong winter demand boosted its revenue. Despite the earnings beat, the premium apparel maker is warning of subdued consumer spending due to growing economic concerns. Canada Goose is guiding investors about low single-digit growth over the next year, citing weak traffic in key markets and weaker spending by travelers. Well, Klarna posted better than expected first quarter revenue results. The Swedish buy now, pay later firm swung to a $1 million profit in the first quarter as revenue jumped 44% to just over $1 billion. The turnaround was powered by a 21% jump in active consumers, which hit 119 million for the quarter. Buy now, pay later services like Klarna are gaining more customers amid rising demand for short-term loans. The Japanese automaker Honda Motor posted its first annual loss in nearly 70 years as a listed company. Honda was hit by more than $9 billion in restructuring costs related to its electrical vehicle business. Honda is also dropping its goal of making EVs a fifth of its new car sales by 2030, and it's dropping a 2040 target for a full shift to electric or fuel cell vehicle sales. That's business. I'm David Asman.
Still to come on Fox 22 News at 10, my conversation with AARP Maine about the importance of the Paid Family and Medical Leave program and the role they played in making it happen. Stay tuned.
It's a special Fox UFL Friday. The Orlando Storm face the Dallas Renegades live at Fort Hood. It all kicks off at 8 Eastern on Fox.
I got hurt by a big truck. Why did I call the twos? Because life-changing injuries deserve life-changing money. We got a client who broke multiple bones in a commercial vehicle accident, $700,000. Call the twos. We win for you.
For years, I've been telling you that all roads lead to Down East. I'd say you listened.
Down East Toyota is now the #1 Toyota dealer in Maine. And we didn't get here just by selling cars. We got here by taking care of them.
From our state-of-the-art body shop
to our own rental agency. We're here to serve you at every stage of the journey.
Right now, lease a 2026 Tacoma double cab from our big selection for $499 a month for 36 months with only $1,000 down. One family, one dealership, one outstanding brand. All roads lead to Down East for your next Toyota.
Everyone deserves to be connected. Big cities, small towns, everywhere in between. And staying connected shouldn't break the bank. That's why T-Mobile and US Cellular have joined forces. And now that we've combined networks, T-Mobile covers more places than ever before. America's best network just got bigger. Join now and your plan price is guaranteed for 5 years. T-Mobile and US Cellular, better together.
What is third-hand smoke? Unlike second-hand smoke you can see, third-hand smoke is invisible toxic residue left behind by smoking and vaping. It sticks to surfaces in your home and car, kids' toys, floors and carpets, furniture, clothing, pet toys, even car seats. It stays long after smoking and vaping stops, and these toxic chemicals can put the health of children, pets, and others at risk. Protect your loved ones from third-hand smoke. Visit MaineQuitLink.com to learn the risks.
When Blazing Trails located in Lincoln want to know the local forecast, they log on to foxbangor.com. Blazing Trails is Lincoln's #1 trusted dispensary, providing outstanding product and customer service to eastern and central Maine.
Welcome back in, everyone. I'm joined by Bridget Quinn with AARP Maine. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So the Paid Family and Medical Leave program, really is kind of one of those things that is long overdue for many, many people. It was long awaited at the very least. Yep. And what folks might not realize is that AARP was a strong proponent of this law and of this program. Why was that?
Yeah, AARP Maine was really involved in this because we see paid family medical leave as critical for Maine's family caregivers. Mm-hmm. So those who are caring for an adult, whether that is a parent, a spouse, an adult child, we know that we actually have about 310,000 Mainers who are providing that support to somebody, especially in the case of an older loved one. A lot of times that keeps them out of a nursing facility, which is where they want to be. They want to be at home. And we see this as an opportunity for people to be able to work and not sacrifice their financial security while being a family caregiver. Across New England, about 70% of our family caregivers also work. And we say at AARP, caring for your mom or dad should not cost you your job, but paid family medical leave can really help in in that situation.
Yeah, and so often, you know, the need for that is brought on by an acute incident that, of course, people are not expecting, and then you have to step up and step in at a time where you weren't expecting to, so that, you know, this program really providing that safety net and a dimension that maybe folks don't always think about when they think of paid family leave.
Absolutely. When the program was just beginning to launch, we had heard from the Department of Labor, out of the 2,000 applications that were already processed, about 10% were for caring for a loved one with a serious illness or long-going care.
Okay, and so this is a problem that folks, you know, need to remember there. It seems like it's very prevalent. I think folks would be surprised at the prevalence of the need for, you know, that kind of caregiving.
Absolutely, and also how costly it can be. On average, caregivers spend about $7,000 out of pocket annually. And imagine if you had to also potentially quit your job while doing that because your parent needed some support. This is a safety net for those individuals.
We hear all the time about how folks say they can't even stomach a $500 out of nowhere hospital bill, so $7,000 a year. That's a big challenge for folks. So now this program is in place. We'll have all of this information on our website later. We thank you so much for coming and sharing some insight and some knowledge about how AARP was a part of this. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, folks, we'll be right back with your full forecast.
Still got some clouds and rain showers to get through tonight into tomorrow, but your weekend looks great. We're going to have plenty of sunshine, and of course, we're going to have some warmer temperatures back across the state of Maine. How warm is going to get for this weekend? We'll have those answers coming right up.
Chevy drivers need a truck that shows up the same way they do. That's why Chevy Silverado is #1 in manufacturer loyalty. So they can go where others won't and always get it done. And as long as Chevy people keep showing up, we'll keep building trucks that do the same.
Now, well-qualified buyers can get 0% financing or $6,000 total cash allowance on this Silverado. Plus, get an additional $1,000 when you trade in an eligible vehicle. And now, eligible military personnel can get $1,000 bonus cash on most Chevy models.
Jado Highlands Golf Course, nestled in the woods of Lincoln, just a short drive from Bangor or Holton. Designed for players of all abilities, Jado features everything a golfer desires. 18 fully irrigated holes, driving range, practice green, and a golf shop with instruction available. Jado maintains quality course conditions while proudly displaying some of the most scenic views in Maine. Challenge yourself to a round of golf surrounded by the beauty of Maine at Jado Highlands Golf Course.
They say Maine is one small town with really long driveways. When we faced our toughest challenge in years, I was honored you let me into your homes. You trusted me to keep us safe, and together, we stood up to Donald Trump's lies about public health. I'm Nirav Shah, and I'm running for governor to bring that same results-driven approach to deliver for all Mainers. As governor, I'll run toward our biggest challenges: fixing housing, funding healthcare, and fighting Donald Trump.
Nirav Shah, governor.
Nothing runs like a deer.
And Greenway Equipment Sales makes it easy to keep your John Deere running smoothly year-round. Our mobile maintenance truck will come to you and service most walk-behind and riding lawn equipment right in your yard. Just call or schedule online. Whatever the season, we'll have you tuned up, sharpened up, and geared up to mow or blow whatever Mother Nature dishes up. Contact the Smith Brothers today for service delivered.
Nothing runs like a deer. From Greenway Equipment Sales, family owned and operated since 1994.
We're ready for baseball, and off we go.
Major League Baseball, all season long on Fox.
Thank you very much. Tonight's weather is brought to you by Da Vinci Signs. From interior and exterior signage packages, and vehicle wraps to illuminated signs, LEDs, and electronic message boards, we're all about making your business visible with innovative signage designed for impact. All right, as you saw there for today, we did reach into the mid-60s here in Bangor, off to the east as well. Those mid-60s even reached all the way up north to Presque Isle for today, but the more you went west, the cooler it got with that cold front hanging out in the area. The southwestern portion of the state got hammered by some rain showers out there, especially Portland. They're high at 61, Freiburg at 55 degrees for you today. So for tonight, a lot of us are falling down into the upper 40s, maybe some low 50s along your coastline, going to be closer to those mid-40s as you head further north, but still a lot of us hanging out in those 40s for tonight. tonight with the clouds and a few showers still hanging out there. Same for tomorrow, but we'll reach back into the low to mid 60s here in the Bangor area again. You will stay cooler off to the west where those showers still are going to continue to hang out there. But up north, you got a better chance of reaching the mid 60s for tomorrow. You'll be out of the rain showers. You'll actually stay dry and see a little bit of sunshine for tomorrow to help you warm up. But speaking of warming up, we got some much warmer temperatures in this forecast, especially starting off this weekend for Saturday and Sunday. We're looking at sunshine in mid to upper 70s. Can't beat that, right? Right near 70 for your Monday to start off the work week, and a big jump Tuesday into the low 80s as of right now. And we can see a few showers and thunderstorms with that. So that is going to come with a cold front by Thursday, right back near average in the mid 60s then. But a very nice warm week is ahead of us now. As we see winds out there, we're a little breezy for today. They're going to stay breezy throughout the night. More of that wind hanging out towards the west. You can see Portland still seeing 20-mile-per-hour gusts. But as we get into the afternoon for tomorrow, the winds actually look to lighten up. Pretty light and variable all across the state, but some more wind will return for your Saturday. This goes to about 6 a.m., but you get an idea. Those winds are going to be coming from the west, and they'll get a little bit more breezy during the afternoon, gusting near 20-plus miles an hour at times. So here's a look at the radar. Portland has been getting hammered by some showers throughout the day today, and that's still going to happen throughout much of tonight. You're going to see this front start to swing its way inland here. Still looking at light chances for rain here in Bangor. I do believe this cloud cover will bring some light showers still to the area, but more of the heavier stuff is staying off to the west where they've seen all that heavy rain for today. Now, as we go throughout the afternoon, the showers are going to become lighter and more scattered, still out there, but they will be out of here by tomorrow evening. Right around 7:30 to 8:30 is when you can expect the cloud cover to get out of here. You'll see decreasing clouds throughout the rest of the night going into your Saturday. Plenty of sunshine to help us warm up into the mid to upper 70s. So we'll definitely take that to start off the weekend. For tonight, though, we got lows hanging out just below 50 degrees. Rain showers out there. Some areas of dense fog for tonight as winds are from the east out there, right around 5 to 10 miles per hour. And for tomorrow, there can be a little bit of a breeze in the morning. Not too bad, right? We'll still look at highs in the low to mid 60s. Scattered showers out there. They will become lighter throughout the day, and you'll see those clouds begin to decrease late in the day as well. So here's a look at your extended forecast. A very nice weekend ahead. Plenty of sunshine for Saturday and Sunday. Highs in the mid to upper 70s. A bit of a drop in temperatures, but still very warm, near 70 for Monday, and that's going to jump up into the low 80s for Tuesday with a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms. Beth?
Chase, thank you so much. Folks, don't go anywhere. We have sports next.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
Sprague's Nursery and Garden Center is your destination for all things green, and yellow, and pink, and red, and, well, you'll understand when you visit us. Plants aren't just another department here. They're our whole world. From gardening classes to our expansive greenhouses, we cultivate a community of budding and seasoned gardeners alike. Professional landscapers turn to us too. Shouldn't you? Sprague's Nursery and Garden Center, growing with you since 1947.
From the heart of Maine, where rugged beauty meets timeless craftsmanship, Richard Henderson & Sons Masonry, taming the outdoors through groundwork, retaining walls and seawalls, building custom fireplaces that become the centerpiece of your home, crafting granite steps and patios that invite you outdoors, designing hardscapes that turn yards into living spaces, built to last, crafted for life. Richard Henderson & Sons Masonry, quality in every stone.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
The Columbus Aviators face the Birmingham Stallions. A special weekend of football continues Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
Welcome back in, folks. Thursday night was a big milestone in the NFL offseason as the 2026-27 schedule was released. The Pats open up in Seattle on a Wednesday night to kick off the entire NFL season, where they'll look to get payback in the Super Bowl rematch. They return to New England in Week 2 for their home opener. They'll take on the Bears in Chicago on Thursday night in Week 7. In Week 9, they'll host the Packers in what will be Tom Brady's return to New England as a broadcaster as part of America's Game of the Week on Fox. The very next week, They'll travel to Germany to take on the Lions, followed by their bye week, and the schedule doesn't get much easier after that. Coming out of the bye week, it's the Chargers on Sunday night, the Bills at home, the Vikings on Thursday, and the Chiefs on a Monday night, then the Broncos in 2 divisional games to round out the regular season. Not quite sure we're looking at a 14-3 record there, everybody. We'll go to the softball diamond now and start at Husson, who hosted their Division III NCAA tournament regional round game against Endicott College on Thursday morning. Husson hosting for the 3rd time in 5 years. Eagles start strong with a clean 3 outs in the 1st inning. They put points on the board, though, when Lydia Rice hits one deep to send Morgan Tainter home. 1-0 Husson, but the goals respond swiftly in the 3rd. Ella Tower is going to hit one right on the line past the infield, and 2 runs make it in for the lead. Moments later, Elise Sasisio hits another deep one, and Maddie Beely finds her way home for a 3-1 lead. In the 4th, Husson takes the lead back thanks in part from this hit from Tainter that allows Sophia Lynch and Cameron King to round the bases. Then in the 7th, Husson still leads 4-3. That's until Towers' big hit brings Beely and Abby McFlynn in back. They take the lead again, and they hold that lead to upset Husson 7-4. Worth noting that the tournament is double elimination. Husson will take on Colby College. They lost against MIT on Thursday. They'll take on Colby College at 1:30 on Friday. Let's stick to local softball and check in with the Bucksport Golden Bucks, who are a season removed from a Class C state title and are showing no signs of regression this year. The Golden Bucks are off to another great start, tallying an impressive 9-1 record through 10 games thus far. Junior Marina Keene and senior Olivia Schutz say the play on the team has played a role in their success, but their mindset and close bond they hold has been just as important.
I think it's that we don't give up. We've had a lot of clutch innings where we score a lot of runs, even if it's been a tight game all game, so I think it's our determination.
I think that we've grown really close together. We have a group chat and we talk all the time. We have a lot of fun. We laugh. We don't argue. Like, there's no drama.
The Golden Bucks have only fallen in 1 game this season, and that was their very first game of the year against Washington Academy. They'll have a chance to avenge that loss on Friday when they travel to play the Raiders. The team says they'll need to bring their best to earn the outcome they desire.
We definitely have to come prepared, know what we have to do, and just work.
I think we need to jump on the ball quicker, just get our bats around a little faster, more energy. We don't have a problem with energy, but it'll help.
And I think we'll do good because our team's really come alive since the first game of the season, so I think we'll be on top of it this game.
Well, as we've been covering extensively, the Maine Mariners are in a heated playoff battle with the Wheeling Nailers. They made a statement on Wednesday night. The Mariners, who trailed the series 2-0 when they got back to Portland for Game 3 on Monday, have now defended home ice and won 3 straight games. They've stormed back to take a 3-2 series lead, and it goes back to Wheeling, and they say that was the plan all along.
Huge momentum swinging the series, and I mean, we said it on Sunday when we got back. We're going to take all 3 at home. That's what we did. Shows the character of the group, but yeah, like Lem said, job's not done yet.
The Mariners will try to close it out the North Division Finals, that is, in Game 6 on Friday down in West Virginia. Game 7 will be on Saturday if needed. For now, that's all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Car accidents can be scary. It can feel like the whole world is crashing down around you. Hurt in a car accident, I'm on top of it. I'm your go-to guy.
Call 222-2222.
Honey, where's the countertop?
I sent it out to the granite shop this morning to be replaced.
Wow.
The quickest turnaround in the business, the Granite Shop in Sedgwick.
With a great backyard comes great responsibility. From the keeper of the flame to the referee of the greatest game ever played. Lifelong memories start here at Glen Burn Landscape and Supply. Residential and commercial projects are a breeze with our premium mulch, stone, and topsoil products. And maintain your backyard in style with the industry's leading lawn care products and equipment. Built to work and built to last. With rugged durability and superior performance, these tools were built for you. Glen Burn Landscape and Supply, where great backyards begin.
Summer's here, and with a new Toyota, you can do all the things that make summer, summer. Take a Grand Highlander and go root for the home team. Send newlyweds off in a Camry. Congrats. Thanks. Or catch some waves with a RAV4. Still got it.
Now, from the longest-lasting brand with the best resale value, you could get $4.99 for $72 on a fuel-sipping all-wheel drive Camry hybrid with 2 years no-cost maintenance.
Your summer starts here. That limbo.
Toyota, let's go places.
Think you know Robert Charles? Think again. While President Trump was crushing the woke left, DC insider Bob Charles was cashing in, making millions holding lucrative contracts with the woke DEI Never Trump Obama administration. Bob Charles, looking the other way, abandoning the MAGA movement, working for liberal DEI-loving Democrats, failing President Trump. Anything for a buck chuck can't be trusted. Trump traitor Robert Charles, woke, radical, wrong. Just too liberal for Maine.
We are green.
The Indianapolis 500.
What animal suggested this image? I mean, we all know the answer, except for that one guy.
Who will be part of the 1% Club? Only Mondays on Fox.
According to new data, Gen Z retail spending is outpacing all other generations, and they're actually going to the stores. Fox's Madison Allworth has more from the Freehold Mall in New Jersey.
Gen Z loves hanging at the mall, and that's because their malls look a little different. They have younger brands, dressing rooms that are well lit so you can take photos and share on social media, and then lots of activities like rock walls. Mace Rich, one of the largest owners of malls in America, says that is the secret to success.
They value experiences almost more than they value material things. So it's as much about the journey as shopping as the things that they're taking home with them.
And then once they're in the mall, they are spending big. Gen Z expected to hit $12 trillion in spend. And of those dollars, most of them are spent in physical stores. 62% of their retail dollars spent in brick and mortar. So this is a digital-first generation. They might have been iPad kids, but they are physical touch adults.
Yeah, it's something to do. Instead of just being online and just clicking a couple buttons. You can actually feel it, try it on too.
Get that bonding experience too.
And as that we grew up during quarantine, I feel like getting out and hanging out with people was a very big thing we didn't appreciate during that time. And now as we grow older, we see that we need to be doing these things, and it's kind of fun.
And it is really fun. Mace Rich, ahead of the internet shopping trend, used to own around 80 malls. Now it's closer to 39. They just acquired one last week because they are super optimistic about the future of Gen Z and the mall. In New Jersey, I'm Madison Allworth, Fox Business.
Nice climb there. While your cell service may be getting better, the Wall Street Journal says AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon are setting aside their differences. They'll boost coverage and connectivity in remote regions across the country. The joint venture still needs to work out some closing conditions. Existing satellite agreements will remain in place. New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art says it will merge with the Neue Gallery, the collection founded by Ronald Lauder, heir to the Estee Lauder business and a former U.S. ambassador to Austria. Among the iconic pieces that will join the Met, Gustav Klimt's Shimmering Woman in Gold from 1907. Neither museum disclosed the financial arrangements. Ronald Lauder's daughter Jane is married to incoming Fed Chair Kevin Warsh. The Met said it will assume ownership and operation of Lauder's 25-year-old museum in 2028, informally renaming it the Met Neue Gallery. Well, new music, more comedy, and a pair of romance stories are making headlines. Fox's Anna Eliopoulos, with all of the latest in today's Hollywood Nation.
Twain returns with new music, and Epps lines up more comedy in the Hollywood Nation.
Girl, you crazy. If she say, I know, everybody say that.
Mike Epps is keeping the laughs coming at Netflix. The streamer is expanding its partnership with the comedian and actor with 2 new one-hour stand-up comedy events. The announcement follows the success of his latest special, Mike Epps Delusional. Both projects are currently in development, with releases planned for 2028 and 2030. Shania Twain is turning the page on a new musical chapter. The country music superstar announced her 7th album, Little Miss Twain, arriving July 24th. The project's lead single, Dirty Rosie, is out now. Ahead of the release, the 5-time Grammy winner will join Harry Styles for a 12-night sold-out run at London's Wembley Stadium beginning June 12th.
Percy being here, it's bad for me.
A summer love story takes center stage in today's First Looks. Prime Video released the trailer for the book-to-screen adaptation, Every Year After. Based on the best-selling novel Every Summer After, the romantic drama follows childhood friends Percy and Sam as they reconnect years after a falling out changed their lives. The series premieres June 10th.
Last night, I met this girl called Emily.
Ngauri Rice and Spike Fern find an unexpected connection in the trailer for Finding Emily. The duo star in the romantic comedy about a lovesick musician who teams up with a psychology student to find his dream girl after getting the wrong number. The film opens in theaters August 28th. Anna Eliopoulos, Fox News.
A beloved Bangor historic building has gotten a major facelift. The Thomas A. Hill House is home to the Bangor Historical Society, and our Callie Warren tells us about those exciting new changes.
A facelift, a foundation lift.
Bangor's Thomas A. Hill House is part of the Queen City's living history.
I mean, the bones of the house dates to 1835.
And after years of planning and months of work, it's gotten a little freshening up.
It was holding up pretty well from 1835, but it was time for a much needed overhaul.
The Historical Society headquarters unveiled their new portico Thursday. Welcoming people in as they prep for a busy summer season.
And now we're continuing the checklist of getting everything painted back again and our grass getting repaired to celebrate the 250th of the country this summer.
To prepare for America's Big Birthday Bash, they also have a host of historic artifacts awaiting visitors inside the house.
We've done some painting, a little bit of painting, touch up here and there for this year's exhibit and the anniversary. We have artifacts from the actual war, which will be on display.
After the resurfacing, the Historical Society is ready to welcome the local community for a semi-quincentennial celebration.
Bangor Historical Society is such an important part of our community and such a community asset. This house is such an important community asset. It really makes a statement about how we care for our community now that it's all in better repair.
In Bangor, Callie Warren, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
And that is going to do it for us, folks. From everyone here at Fox 22 News, take care and have a great rest of your night. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
For more local news coverage, switch over to our sister station, ABC 7, right now for ABC 7 News.
John Mulaney and Asa Gonzalez on a new Jimmy Kimmel Live later tonight.
Decker Investigations.
I have a job for you.
All episodes of RJ Decker are now streaming on Hulu.
Como se dice possible homicide?
It's entertainingly twisty.
Where would we be without Laurent P.I.?
Get hooked on this must-watch compelling hit.
That's straight gold, son.
It's being called one of the best new shows this year.
Repeat after me, okay? Everything is gonna be...
Try not to die tonight.
I will do my best.
RJ Decker. All episodes now streaming on Hulu.
This is ABC 7 News at 11.
A person was discovered dead as